Welcome to a Dram of Diving live on location in Truk Lagoon. I'm here with Aaron from Dirty Dozen, and we're going to go ahead and start off with the last bit of, we had to save it, the last bit of Jefferson's Ocean to Aged at Sea. Why don't you go ahead while I'm pouring this, introduce yourself really quick so everybody can get to know who you are.
Hi everyone, my name is Aaron Arngrimsson. I'm the owner of the Dirty Dozen Expeditions. We specialize in open circuit technical diving and rebreather expeditions to Truk Lagoon, Bikini Atoll, Galapagos, and Palau. When was it we first met actually? Was it when you came up with a Dram of Diving and we had a webinar during COVID or something?
Yeah, it was a webinar during COVID. Here you go.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Aaron was actually on the show that came up with the Dram of Diving because we were doing just this, and I was like, you know what? We should just start drinking and doing these and tasting some stuff, because we were talking about, well, we had met at DEMA and we were talking about this and having, doing something with this. So cheers.
Cheers. A couple of years later.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. Excellent.
Oh.
Yeah, so good.
That's very good.
So we just finished 10 days in Truk Lagoon, Truk, and basically the first charter out, which was nerve-wracking, I'll say.
Yeah.
Going ahead and hitting that first thing. Aaron and I are going to talk a little bit. Aaron's going to go ahead and give kind of a report. And then we're going to talk to some of the guests that were here with us and get kind of their report, their take on some different things. So you've been posting on social media on the Dirty Dozen Expeditions, kind of reports in general, but do you want to kind of give a general rundown of what you saw?
Sure. I think the general public isn't really aware that Truk is open now. I had a lot of people following my footsteps as I was making my way to Truk and landing on the 7th of November, they would have been. Because formally, the Federated States of Micronesia were only supposed to open on the 1st of November. But they had a COVID outbreak in October that spiked very quickly and calmed down. And from there on out, they were able to open the borders actually, I think, 2 weeks ahead of schedule, which made our lives a lot easier because we were able to get the boat in a lot quicker, staff came in quicker, we were able to bring all the helium and soft lime in, which is very scarce in this part of the world, and make sure that everything was ready for these guys to have a wonderful trip. 16 tech divers, yeah.
Excellent, yeah. And you've got a lot of trips coming up, so what's that schedule look like? Guys, I was impressed by that.
So we have 7 trips to Truk Lagoon in the next 12 months. Open circuit tech and rebreather. We have 2 more back-to-back after this one, starting day after tomorrow. And then we have 2 trips in January. I think there might be a spot left, January, February, and then 2 more trips in the autumn next year, October and December. So I think there's a couple of spots left there too. You can go on dirtydozenexpeditions.com and check our new live booking engine where you see real-time availability. You can even book online, pay with your credit card, boom, and you're on. But you're not confirmed until we check your certifications and make sure you're good.
Yes, as always, got to vet those people, definitely.
Absolutely.
Especially for diving like this. It's unbelievable, but it is a challenge, without a doubt.
So is this your first time in Truk?
This is my first time in Truk. Yeah.
So tell me your expectations versus reality.
The beginning of the week, it felt almost like regular wreck diving initially, and I was like, all right, well, it's cool, it's amazing, it's wonderful, but maybe it was a little bit overhyped. And then the second half of the week, I was like, nope, definitely not overhyped. Those were warm-up dives. We were just trying to get to this spot here, which is, kudos to you guys for just the build-up dives, because people might miss out because gear malfunction or just figuring themselves out, getting sorted, and those initial dives that are just like, it's a wreck. It's great. It's World War II, whatever.
And the thing is, we've had COVID past us now. There's so many factors that play in for the divers that come on board, maybe to be a little bit rusty, not have as many dives in the last 2 years as they normally would have. And same with the boat and crew. I mean, they haven't been operating for like 1,000 days. But even on a normal schedule, we do these build-up dives, right? So we start actually where we are right now in the repair anchorage, where we have a lot of easy-going wrecks before we move out to the 4th Fleet anchorage, which is like the second part of the trip with all the deeper and more amazing wrecks. And we just slowly build up the depth and the run times. I mean, The average run time you'll be doing in a day's diving is about 4 to 5 hours, so 2 times 2 hours, 2.5. We had a whopper on the San Francisco yesterday. We did 1 dive in the day instead of 2, and we did, what, 4 hours?
Yeah, right at 4 hours.
That was pretty good way to experience the $1 million wreck. Just do it once and do it really long, which was excellent, actually.
That was super impressive. And then today, what wreck did we do today?
The Ikoku Maru, the infamous Ikoku,
Yeah, that was unbelievable. That was probably my favorite. You know, special guide by Auntie, but but it was by far my favorite.
And the schedule is always different. You know, it's I made this schedule for this group now. Next week it's going to be different. Well, I mean, I guess 60-70% is going to be similar, but the last 30% is always based on kind of what people like. So if there's some people that like submarines or destroyers and whatever have you, we change our schedule according to that.
I'll tell you that. So one of the things that I've been my entire life wanting to see is a zero.
Yeah.
And as you're starting to dive these wrecks and starting to see these things, like there's zeros around. And we could have gone and done a zero, but there's zeros on some of the wrecks. So we didn't have to just, I don't want to say waste the dive, we didn't have to just go on a zero, which is small. It's miniature, and then you look around and you go, okay, that was great, amazing.
Short dive. Yeah.
Instead, it was part of an entire other wreck, which I was super pleased. I was disappointed because I didn't think we were going to see a zero, and then finding out that there were zeros on the wrecks, I was like, this is
we try not to give it all away.
Yeah.
So that's something we knew about, and then we're like, oh yeah, just wait until he gets to Fujikawa, which is like one of the most legendary wrecks in the lagoon. It's heavily featured on Jacques Cousteau's Laguna Lost Ships. Yeah. You know, and you drop into the first or second hold, and the first thing you see is just like 2 zeros.
Yeah.
Got the joystick and everything.
Yeah.
It's legendary. Yeah.
It was great. So, how is it now compared to way it was? You know, how long has it been? How many days has it been?
About 1,000.
1,000 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to say the wrecks change as it's the way of life for them, right? What are they, 78 years old now? And I can't expect to come back to them, 2.5 years later or whatever, and for them to be the same. And on our social media, if you go on our Facebook or whatever, you can see daily updates we've been doing, and we're going to keep doing them, where we just feature a wreck, showcase some pictures, and write down just a little report saying, superstructure has collapsed a little bit more, there's an opening here now, this has collapsed, and so on and so on, just to keep people. There are keen Truk Lagoon enthusiasts that are very eager to know how the wrecks are doing. So yeah, we're going to be doing that public service.
Yeah, and it's too much to cover in a show. There's so many little differences and so many things. So those posts are key to going back and
absolutely
and knowing those, which is excellent. I'm going to grab somebody at this point in time. All right, excellent. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? You're on a drama diving, and we're going to go ahead and talk about your experiences, but go ahead and introduce yourself, kind of your general background to the audience.
Sure. My name is Matt. I'm 26. I live in Texas. This is my first time diving with the Dirty Dozen, first time diving the Pacific, and first time diving in Truk Lagoon.
Nice.
I'm an open circuit trimix diver. About a couple hundred dives at this point. So
nice. Excellent. Beautiful. So what did you think?
Trip of a lifetime.
Yeah?
Yeah, this is one for the books. I hope I can get back here someday, but definitely one of the best dive sites I've ever been to in my life.
What was your favorite wreck you ended up doing?
It's a tough question. The Fujikawa was incredible, but the San Francisco was just hard. There was just so much to see down there.
Yeah.
And also something about live ordnance underwater is just super cool.
yeah.
Super cool.
Seeing that stuff and you realizing how many of bullets and bombs and all sorts of things is just impressive. How'd you end up getting here? How did you find Dirty Dozen and all that?
So I've been diving with my dad pretty much my entire life. He's my longtime dive buddy, and we heard about Truk Lagoon just being on dive boats and being around divers, and he ended up finding the Dirty Dozen crew, and they said, technical trimix is the way to do Truk Lagoon, and so that kicked off our process about 5 years ago. That's when we started our training down in Cozumel, And just with COVID, it got pushed back a couple years. But we've been planning for this trip for about 5 years now, and building up our experience for it. So
beautiful. And I think that's super important, is when you start talking about this isn't a book for next year. Like this isn't, if you've got the experience and all that, it's great if there's some open spots like Aaron said and you've got that. But don't be shy to say, okay, 2024, 2025 is my trip, and start to have that conversation and start going, because you bringing that up is super key for that. Any super special experiences you had that that you would find interesting?
Man, there's so much to choose from. I mean, just being on a liveaboard, it's just a different environment compared to just going out on a boat and coming back, breaking down your equipment. I think being around this group of divers too is just truly special. I mean, people from all over the world are on this boat and come from all different backgrounds, but everyone's united under the same sort of drive for exploration and adventure. And I found just the crew, the staff, and all of the members of the dive team to just be the best part of this trip.
Nice.
To share experiences, to talk about each dive, to hear from different people about how they saw diving and what it meant for them. That was truly special, and it's probably what inspired me the most is coming off this trip is like, wow, I really want to be more involved in this community. And
good.
Yeah.
Very nice. So you were working on photography too, right? You were doing
Yes.
photography stuff? How'd
Yes.
that go?
So I have a bit of an artistic background, but underwater photography was never really something that I went for until I came to Truk Lagoon, and I was like, wow, this is just too special not to capture. And I started doing some photography underwater, and then that's when I approached Aaron and said, hey, I need some help. And he ended up taking me on a class and walking me through just how to set up the camera, how to have models come in and do poses on certain sites in the wreck. And
that's super easy. Like, you just go and it's just natural, right?
Yeah.
Like it's so simple.
Yeah.
I've got some video we're gonna post up of like the video shoot of putting all the staging, all of the lights, and getting that all, and that's what kind of Aaron walked you through and going, oh my God.
Yeah, I think especially with technical diving, right? You already have this sort of task list that you're going throughout the dive, and so adding lighting and camera positioning and communicating what you need underwater, it's just another layer of complexity. And so learning to deal with that, I think in the beginning of the trip, I was just like, this is too much, and then by the end of the trip, I was like, I got the hang of it now.
Excellent. So if you could give one word of advice to people who are listening, considering stuff, what would it be?
I'd say preparation is key. I think, just this is my first time doing a liveaboard. This is my first time doing really technical diving, and, equipment failures happen, things happen underwater. And the fact that I had so much time to prepare and prep for this trip, I was so comfortable dealing with those obstacles underwater that it just made the rest of the diving experience so much easier. And I got to really enjoy every wreck despite whatever problem I ran into.
Nice. Well, thank you very much, Matt. I appreciate your input, and we're going to grab another guest.
Thank you.
Thanks. Excellent. All right, so next guest. Jen, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Jen Head. I'm a scuba diver here on the Dirty Dozen in Truk Lagoon.
Excellent. Very nice. And you are diving open circuit or closed circuit?
I'm diving my Revo rebreather, which I love.
Nice. Excellent. So did you have a favorite wreck?
Yeah, I like the Fujikawa. That was my favorite, which I really wanted to go back to today, but that's okay. We didn't end up there. We ended up on a different wreck, which was pretty cool.
What was your favorite part of the Fujikawa?
The Fujikawa had the planes, and you could really just take your time in the holds because the planes were in the holds of the ship, and you could see the cockpits and the propellers, and it was pretty stunning.
Is there any other favorite parts of the Fujikawa that you had?
I also learned what a telegraph was, so that was pretty outstanding. So the funny story is I don't know a whole lot about boats. This was not my bucket list trip. This was my husband's. And I do shipwrecks, but I guess I don't pay attention that well. So on this particular wreck, you called me over to get a photo by this structure, and I was like, okay. So I swim in for the photo. He takes the photo. I swim away, and then I asked another diver in our group on my slate. I said, telegraph question, or telegraph question mark, and I was at the telegraph taking a photo, and I didn't realize what that item was. So it was there was a lot of learning for me about what things a shipwreck has or a vessel has, and how to navigate through them.
And I think you learned a lot. We had a lot of those discussions, right? Like, and it's important to tell that story because people are going to come and, maybe not know everything about a shipwreck, but you learn so much while you're here that, something as simple as a telegraph, but then you started talking about, I'm figuring out how the ships are built, right? And then that's helping you.
Yeah, because navigation, I don't normally navigate underwater on a shipwreck typically. I mean, I have done some wreck diving, but not to this scale. So just kind of learning the basic design of a ship. Like, I obviously knew the bow and the stern and starboard and port side, but actually learning like where the engine room generally is, where the skylights are, the holds, where different holds might be located, and the superstructure. I knew what that was, but just sort of learning like what a binnacle is and where that might be located, and how there are different telegraphs located at different areas on the ship so that they could communicate. I didn't know that before. Yeah. So that was cool.
And I mean, that speaks to a point of that you enjoyed it, you came, you saw some things, you learned a ton, but you don't have to be like fully engrossed in shipwrecks to be here. Like, they're cool stuff and you can learn while you're here.
Like I told Joe, I said, I think I enjoyed it more than I thought. Not that I didn't think I was going to enjoy it, but like I said, it was his choice for this trip. This is our first bucket list trip. So it was something he really wanted to do, and I get it. With the degradation that's going on underwater for the vessels, I can see why he didn't want to wait to do it. That, and it's a very technical trip, and we were able to kind of really vamp up our training before we came, because we originally, when we booked this trip, we were going to do open circuit trimix. And then the pandemic happened, the trip got pushed back, we ended up getting on rebreathers, and then we were still kind of hemming and hawing, do we bring the rebreather or do we do the open circuit? We ended up bringing the rebreather, which was awesome, because I think that would be the way to do the wreck. All the wrecks is on a rebreather.
Yes, definitely. I love it. If you could give one word of advice to anybody, what would it be?
Anybody coming on this trip?
Or thinking about coming on this trip?
Do it on a rebreather.
Yeah?
Yeah, I would definitely do it on a rebreather. That, and, just be ready to, the first couple days, you just got to get your bearings, because you're setting up your gear in an unfamiliar place. So just don't be hard on yourself. Within a couple days, you're kind of in your groove, but don't get too comfortable. You still want to do the checklist and make sure you're safe, because accidents can still happen even when you're having an amazing time.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Excellent. Keep that rolling. Keep it rolling. Hot swap that. You put that back on the way you had it.
Yeah.
Put that back on the way you had it. Hot swap that mic, and you sit down. You keep recording. Daniel.
Next.
Who's getting 90 lights?
Yeah. Our next guest is now arriving. This is Joe, who Jen referred to. Jen is very lucky to have this stunning gentleman. Dive Soft so graciously awarded you with some underwear.
Yes.
We called ahead and said somebody
quite
needs
nice.
some. Yeah,
I've been complimented a few times on these panties.
yeah, they are impressive. They are probably my favorite pair. I've got a pair and I wear them often, so I'm impressed. So, Jen said it was your trip to Truk and you had to drag her along.
Yeah. This has been a bucket list trip for me since 2007.
Wow.
I got certified in 2006, and the first thing that the shop that I was affiliated with at the time, they went and did a giant trip to Truk. They came back, had all these photos, and I was like, that's where I want to go.
Nice.
And so 2018, a different actually celebrity diver said, hey, you should join us with the Dirty Dozen. And I had always, like I said, I had always wanted to do Truk.
Yeah.
It was always on the agenda, but I started looking into Aaron's expedition, and it seemed really intriguing that it was specifically a tech trip, and that you'd actually get to do a lot more. You'd get so much more interaction with the wrecks and with what's underwater and what the history and get time to explore, that I was like, yep, I think that's the organization that I want to do this with.
Nice, excellent. Did it deliver?
Yes, it did. It's tough. I can't say I had a lot of expectations because you don't know what you don't know.
Yep.
Like I said, we signed up for this trip in 2018. It was supposed to happen in 2020. It ended up happening in 2022. We had oodles and oodles and oodles of time to prepare. We initially were just decompression procedures, advanced nitrox, and thought, all right, with a couple of years, we'll be able to get trimix. And then when COVID happened, that was when we started shopping for rebreathers, and then.
It happens a lot, and then, right?
So yes, this was our first time traveling with our rebreathers. This is the first time we've taken a big technical trip. Not our first liveaboard, but still just a very unique experience.
Good. Excellent. If you had to give advice to anybody, what would it be?
I guess do your research ahead of time. If you're going to sign up for a trip like this one, know what's expected as far as what you're going to see, know what's expected as far as what skills you need, and know what's expected as far as what equipment you're going to need, because it's all of those things together that's going to end up. And then don't expect everything to go smoothly.
Excellent. I love it. Well, thank you very much, Joe. I appreciate it.
Sure. All right. Thank you.
All right. You can cold swap that. I want Auntie. I saw him pop up. Sorry, Bill. You're coming up. He's right there. He's behind you. He was going to sneak behind. All right. You don't. Auntie, can you go ahead and introduce yourself and what you're doing on this charter here for me?
Hey, I'm Antti Apunen. I'm visiting Dirty Dozen Expeditions. I think this is my fourth trip now, second to Truk. I do a lot of diving where I come from, that is in the Nordics. Member of the Nordic Explorers, Divers of the Dark Team, do a lot of wreck diving up in the north, really intrigued into the Second World War stories. And that's basically why I'm here.
Nice, beautiful. And you had some safety functions going on too while you were here. Can you explain kind of how that works a little bit?
Yeah, along the way we have had the discussion obviously going on. We are in remote places and we are doing quite demanding dives, and we come from various backgrounds, and the idea is that we are trying to sort of standardize a little bit the operation so that it's easy for anyone coming here to sort of quickly grasp a safe way of diving in a new environment. So we introduce the procedures, and we have a method of walking through every diver before the dive, like what is there to be expected. So we sort of try to create the right mental images of what's going to happen and make things safer that way.
Yep, I think, and that's super important, because when you start looking at it, like you said, you're in a remote place, you're running through these different checks, you're trying to assemble your gear, and having somebody that's experienced, having a safety checklist, and giving you those feedbacks, and constantly having conversations every night talking about how can we make this safer, where can we do better, is massive. And I personally respect that massively, of kind of coming down into the galley and seeing you guys discuss what could we have done better, how could we do this safe. Not that anything went wrong, but how could we do better? It went well, how can we do better? I think that's massive. I think that's super, super important. And I really appreciate that from my side of things. And I got to do some great dives with you. What was your favorite dive?
I think what we did today, going into the wreck and explored the engine room, that's always something I look forward to doing, getting myself rusty. That was a proper dive.
Getting a little dirty is always key. Since we're running out of time a little bit, I don't want to cut you short at all, but if you could give some people some general recommendations on coming onto the ship and diving with Dirty Dozens, what would be some general recommendations you would give for individuals wanting to make this trip?
Well, I think obviously need to consider the remoteness of the site, but otherwise it's I think it is not too hard wreck diving, but get your mind wrap around the fact that you are in a faraway place. Get your reels with you, be ready to do the exploring, and that's all there is really.
Maintenance, safety. Get everything kind of in line and get going. So I appreciate it, Antti. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
How much time? All right, welcome, Bill. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Bill.
Bill Anderson, Syracuse, New York area. Been diving for the past 30 years, and then diving with Jason for the past 3 years through Deep Stop Scuba.
And what do you do at Deep Stop Scuba? You forgot to mention.
I'm an instructor with Deep Stop.
There you go. Thank you. That's key. We got to get that in there. You got to talk about that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, Bill works with our shop and has been diving with us. Bill has been specifically, if I don't mind talking for you, but like specifically doing things to really target this trip. And it's similar to what Matt talked about of specifically, and Joe, and then. But
Yes.
You started from, oh my God, trip of a lifetime. How can I get a better experience? So why don't you go ahead and talk about the process there for you?
So once we realized that this was a trip that was an option for me, I realized getting on a closed circuit rebreather was just where I needed to be. So I talked with Jason and started looking at options and decided to move to a rebreather. And that was, I think, a game changer for this trip. I think Jen mentioned it, that coming here on a rebreather it opens you up to a lot more time underwater, a lot more exploration. And so that was pretty amazing.
Beautiful. So what was your favorite wreck? What was your favorite thing about this?
I don't think there's any specific one. They're all amazing, but the engine room that we were in the other day, it was just amazing to think that where we were inside this ship, exploring and just seeing history, I think was pretty powerful.
Was there any, do you have a background drive? A couple people talked about they were obsessed with World War II. Like, what was your background drive to be here?
So I'm prior service Army, and my grandfather was a naval fighter pilot in the Pacific. So being here is a very humbling experience to understand the war that took place and what happened to these sailors and soldiers and airmen. And I think that just being here, it gives you perspective to see the damage, to see the environment in which these soldiers and sailors lived. I think just for me, I think being here to be able to see this firsthand was just amazing.
And because it's personal, you kind of glossed over it a little bit, but your grandfather was a fighter pilot.
Yes,
in World War II.
In World War II, in the Pacific Theater. So he flew planes. His nickname was Ace. So, like I said, being here, it's kind of just pretty amazing.
Yep. So it's where he was.
Yep.
And it's that massive personal connection. Yep. So that's excellent. If you could give people any advice, what would it be?
Once you make that decision, like I said, my original intent was to come here side mount open circuit. And then once I started realizing what opportunities open, being able to move to the rebreather, I think, building your skill sets up, getting your training in place, get everything online, get ready to be here. And I think that was the biggest thing, is just preparation to make sure that you're ready to be here and be a safe diver.
Thanks, Bill. Really appreciate it. All right. Aaron, you are joining us. You're one of our last guests. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Aaron Mahoney, currently active duty guard in the New York Air National Guard, monitoring air defense over the United States to prevent another 9/11 type of attack.
Beautiful. Thank you very much for that. Yeah.
Thanks.
So what was your experience like?
My experience here at Truk Lagoon was definitely once in a lifetime. Very eye-opening, as Bill mentioned. It was quite humbling, penetrating wrecks, seeing the legacy of our Air Force in action and what they did to destroy this Japanese fleet was mind-boggling. Mm-hmm. The amount of stuff and equipment and trucks and airplanes and parts, it was unreal.
That's crazy.
Unreal.
So, and looking at that from active duty, seeing that, it's a humbling experience, right? Of seeing what that is. It brings a humanity to it after the fact, right?
Absolutely. As we dove on that last wreck, you know, there's still some remains at the bottom, you know, so it is, you know, there's two sides to war, and both are ultimately losers. So, yeah, it's very humbling seeing what devastation can be wrought by man.
Yeah, definitely. And everybody keeps saying once in a lifetime. You can come back. I mean, that's something you can do. We can make that happen. But
yeah, Aaron says the price is negotiable, so free is good, right?
Yeah, negotiate for him to tell you the exact price that what it is when it's on the website. So, did you have a favorite one you did?
If I could remember the Japanese names, I would tell you that. All I remember was looking at the airplanes that were in one of the wrecks. There were, you know, 4 or 5 airplanes in there, and just seeing how small the cockpits were, and yeah, that was very cool. Very cool experience.
You think they're so big.
Yeah.
They're so small and they're so light. And
yeah,
that's definitely, we were discussing that afterwards of like, oh my God, like this is, you know, I don't even think you'd fit in one.
No, it was definitely not built for a over 5.5 foot guy.
Yeah,
or
definitely
girl.
not. So, yeah. If you could give some recommendations for anybody, what would it be?
As Bill mentioned, I would definitely look into a rebreather. The amount of bottom time that a rebreather provides is priceless. We had some open circuit folks. They had to make, you know, an extra dive or two and limited their diving. So it's still doable, plenty of shipwrecks. But that rebreather is amazing, just to be able to hover for an extended period of time and be quite comfortable in the water.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Yeah. So, well, thank you very much, and I appreciate your service.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. All right, well, we had a little tiny bit left.
Okay.
Go ahead, try it. See what you can make happen. There you go. Beautiful. Yeah, that's good shit.
It is good shit.
It's really good shit.
Very nice.
That's aged at sea, so like it's got a little saltiness to it. It's very.
Oh, it
interesting.
fits
It's
in
very
well with
different.
us, doesn't
yeah,
it? Then?
It does. Absolutely does. So, introduce yourself, even though you don't need any introduction.
Right. So I work with Aaron. I also work at Nowie headquarters.
I'm sorry.
But my name is Terrence Dunford. You're sorry. We birthed y'all, all right? Grandson.
Yes.
No, so I work in the training department. I've lived in Truk for over a year. I did 6 months in Bikini Atoll. I've been very blessed in my career in diving and been able to bounce around some of the, in my opinion, some of the best diving places in the world.
Excellent. And Terrence been giving us a lot. I mean, because you've got that experience and given great feedback, and we jest about the agency thing, working for SCI-TDI. We've had an amazing week, you know, chatting together, and you know, just your feedback. What is your favorite spot on the wrecks?
Ooh, I love bathrooms personally. They're one of my favorite things to go looking for.
That's understated.
Yes.
He's obsessed with bathrooms. Every single wreck, he talks about the bathroom. So
we're sitting over the second best.
Oh yeah,
of the lagoon in
Really?
the Heian.
What's the first best?
Amagi-san, or I mean Ikoku.
Ikoku's got
The
the best
Ikoku.
bathroom.
Absolutely.
Have you ever used it?
No.
Okay, just checking.
No. I'm always in a wetsuit. It's too hard to get out. If I was in a dry suit like some of you guys, it might be a little easier.
Yeah, fair enough. So this one's the second best.
Yes.
What wreck are we sitting over? I kind of
The Heian Maru.
Heian Maru. So with this backdrop, we're sitting right over a wreck right now.
Correct.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
What would be the third? I mean, top three. You got to go top three.
I really like the bathrooms in the Shinkoku, just because you got that soaking tub right next to it. With the rust hole, you could, you know, reach over and give a little massage to the person taking a soak if you wanted to.
That would silt out a little bit.
Just a little
bit,
just a little bit.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But definitely those are probably my top three.
I love it. Do you have like a top 10 list that you keep? Like, does it change over time, or you just there's
That's
bathrooms are pretty
kind of
stable?
where like the standards are.
Okay.
You know, obviously I'll pop into a couple because some of these wrecks are so big. You find a new one. Oh,
yeah.
Hey, this might be pretty good.
I think you should probably write a blog or something on the top 10 bathrooms in Truk, or top 5.
Okay.
In Truk Lagoon, or at least post it on Dirty Dozen website with pictures or something like that.
Dirty Dozen talk shit.
Yeah, Dirty Dozen talk shit.
That could be a nice working title.
That's excellent. You put us in front of the camera, Aaron. You said this would be a good idea. So
you have
knew
no one to
exactly where
blame
this was
but
gonna
yourself.
So, talking shit with Dirty Dozen. I love that, and we could do like the top list of.
No longer are we coming clean. This is a spinoff.
Yeah. You've seen
We've
all
gone-
of Disney Plus and everything. Do spin-offs
We've gone
and everything.
rogue. All right, we've
Yeah.
gone rogue.
Yeah, don't worry about it. No, I don't think anybody repeat that. I don't think anybody heard
The
that.
Dirty Dozen presents the Dirty Deuce.
The Cherry Juice. We have, just so everybody knows, we have basically the everybody who joined us on the trip behind us, kind of watching the show as we're going to take a group picture and everything like that. So.
The top 12 toilets?
like-
Oh, because the
like-
Dirty Dozen toilets.
Oh, top 12. There you go.
I can work on that.
Yeah, top
I got a couple.
12.
I got a couple more trips. We can work on that.
I love that. Very, very nice. Daniel is going ahead and thank you, Daniel, is going ahead and kind of showing everybody that was on the trip. So I think everybody, or mostly everybody, we're going to take a group picture here in a second.
Yeah.
Any words of wisdom from your massive amount of, dare I say, knowledge? It hurts me.
That's a stretch, but
Yeah, it is.
one of the big things I always get questioned whenever talking about truck with customers or people or anything.
Why don't you stop
anyone
talking?
that well, that's one of them. But it's also like what kind of training I need. And I get that all the time. And I always tell people like the best time to dive truck is now, regardless of what certifications you have. I highly recommend nitrox at a bare minimum. Diving air on these is rough. But I mean, with the wrecks that we've dove this week, you've seen most of the depths are within recreational dive limits. With the nitrox tank slapped to your back, you don't need to go into tech or into decompression dives to fully appreciate these wrecks. And so that's kind of what I would tell people is like, look, if you got the means and the time, let's go.
Beautiful.
And we do have recreational charters with the Dirty Dozen. So they are kicking off some of those, so you can always sign up for that as well.
Beautiful. I love it. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Don, go ahead and introduce yourself for me, please.
My name is Don Labruzzo. I live in El Paso, Texas. I also have a dive shop in Cozumel, Mexico, Deep Exposure Dive Center. Hopefully you all come dive with us. Many people on this trip have dove with us in the past. I've trained a few people here as well.
Nice. Beautiful. What's your experience been like?
Say again?
What's your experience been like down here?
Well, a little different than maybe Terrence. I think I really haven't wanted to come here previously.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of wreck diving in the Pacific. I do quite a bit of cave diving and deep in Mexico, and I do deep ocean dives. So to me, I was looking for an operation that catered to diving in a non-recreational environment. I don't think, for me, this is a recreational environment to really get the true spirit of it. You have to, certainly there are deeper dives, there are longer dives, and I think to enjoy the fullness of what Truk has to offer, it's penetrations. And that means rebreathers. And as I look around here, I don't know if you can see, but I would say that the vast majority of people that dove on this trip had rebreathers. And those that didn't are now thinking about maybe they should be diving a rebreather. Now, it's not for everyone, but for this kind of trip, in my view, it makes the most sense to do longer, and ultimately it's safer. You're not, the time pressure of running out of gas and getting back to the line, things can happen. So I think, for me, this is why I waited until I found the right operation that would let me enjoy to the fullest the advantage of diving a rebreather and using cave experience to do some penetrations.
Beautiful. I love it. What was your favorite wreck?
Well, as everyone said too, they all kind of come together. I guess the San Francisco was probably the best.
Yeah.
It had the best penetrations. We did one this morning, and frankly I forgot the name.
Yeah. That happens. There's a lot of wrecks. There's so many
they
wrecks.
all kind of run together, but they're really good. They're excellent wrecks. Again, to go around the outside periphery of the wreck to me wouldn't be worth it.
Yep.
But to get inside the holds, and we found some human remains, which if you're in that thing, I'm not into bathrooms like some people are. But,
yeah, some people are obsessed with bathrooms.
and there's live ordnance everywhere, and it's all part of the history as well. To see the wreck we're on today, the entire section, bow section was gone.
Yep.
Apparently a 500-pound bomb, direct hit, full of aviation fuel and ordnance, and it's vaporized the front of the ship. And the amount of damage we've seen in the last 10 days is just incredible. And this was back 70 years ago in World War II. think how it would be today with the technology we have in weapons. Hopefully, we won't see another Truk
Yeah,
experience.
definitely.
And now I'm heading back tomorrow to Pearl Harbor. I'm going to spend a couple of days and see what the other side of this equation. You know,
Yeah.
there's the,
Definitely.
so, but it's a great experience. It's a great trip. Clearly, you can come back here more than once.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think if you came back a second time, you'd have a better idea of what you want to do. You'd have a better strategy, and you go after the things you want to see. Because there's plenty to see, provided you have the right equipment and the right training. I'm also a TDI instructor, and although there are other good agencies, I believe that TDI offers, I think, more than other agencies to their instructors. And as a TDI instructor, you know what I'm talking about. As long as we can teach to the diver, to the student,
Definitely.
we're not obligated to follow 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah,
And it
exactly.
allows us to, I think, tailor our training to individuals, and they become better divers that way.
Beautiful. So you kind of already hit on it, but if you had some, I mean, we're running out of daylight a little bit, but if you had some real good recommendation for people, what would you kind of already hit on it, but what would your recommendation be for people coming?
Well, again, I would say rebreather's a must, but the rebreather only is, I think, useful if you're trained at least normoxic trimix.
Yep.
Because today we did 180. It's just too deep. It's just too deep for air. And although high helium's expensive, the beauty of a rebreather is you have a 3-liter tank.
Yep.
And
Less
you
expensive,
use
even though it's more.
1,000 psi, or use 1/3 of your tank. I mean, we did a dive yesterday. I did it with an open circuit guy, and he, I used 20 cubic feet of gas. He used how much? How much? 243 for the same dive.
Yep. It
So
makes the rebreather pay for itself pretty quick.
It pays for itself. You have to dive a lot to become skillful, to become knowledgeable. But I would say trimix, rebreather, TDI is the way to go.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Don. I appreciate it.
All right.
All
My
right.
pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh.
Good timing.
All right. Aaron, lots of good recommendations for people, lots of good stuff that's coming back. This is your first trip back since COVID. It went as smoothly as could be expected. It was a great operation. How did you feel that everything went?
Wow, it's a good question. I'm really proud of the boat crew and the operation behind the boat owners and how they handled this. Obviously, we have over 50 rebreather divers coming in on the boat in the next, in this 30-day period, and I can't thank them enough for how professionally the crew and everyone has handled this. This is not a fast food vending machine experience. We offer curated technical diving experiences, and with my crew out of service for 1,000 days, I mean, they really delivered. They did a great job.
Yeah. And what we never hit, no one ever talked about it, but it's the question that every single person asks. The food was excellent.
Food was great.
The food was great.
We all slept well. We were diving. We were eating. What else do you want? We have a good time, and I think that's what the Dirty Dozen really is about. Is that anybody that's been on my trips, they always say, normally when you're on a liveaboard, there's always that someone there, right? I make a big effort of making sure that someone never shows up, right? So when you have this big group of people that's behind us right now, they're actually good human beings, aside from being great divers, right?
Yeah. And that's a conversation that, to not to cut you off, but Aaron has asked these vets people, is this a good human being? I respect that massively of you saying, hey, despite, I can't vouch for all of your decision makings. Terrence here, I can't, it is what it is, but, we can't win all of them.
No. Well, he's got the experience.
Rob Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah, exactly. But at the end of the day, that's what makes the Dirty Dozen the Dirty Dozen. We are just a bunch of passionate individuals that want to have a lot of fun together, doing it right, doing it safely, and doing some real exploration in one of the best diving destinations in the world. So please join us on one of our 7 trips in the next 12 months, and thank you so much for your time, Jason.
Yeah, and I want to say, finishing this whole thing up, thank you to the crew, to the captain, to the staff. Thank you to all the guests, and especially the people that kind of came on the show here. Really appreciate everything that all of you have done to make this an amazing trip, and thank you to you, and hopefully we'll have many more.
Absolutely.
Cheers, man.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.